Hello, hello. We are back and we are in section 4 and we are talking about eating geographically and why it's important to know what kind of food grows where in the world. And it gives us a really good insight into where our food comes from and why it comes from those areas. And as we'll get into in the next section, it gives us a really good idea of why certain cultures eat certain things, why certain cultures eat more beef or eat more fish or eat more certain plant staples, all these kinds of things. So it's really, really an interesting part of food when we're learning about what food is and what food isn't. So in this section, we have just gone over plant staples. And we've gone through all the different continents and looked at what plant staples grow in North America, in South America, in Europe, Africa, Asia, and Australia. And the plant staples make up the bulk of people's food, the bulk of people's diets, but there are other staples as well. So I wanted to go over just briefly some of the other staples that we eat and that are really important for our health and to build our health. So we're going to go over two. In this lesson, we're going to go over animal protein staples, and in the next lesson, we're going to go over dairy staples. So, for animal protein staples, you can look at this slide and get a little bit of an idea about the main animal food staples. And what's important about these is that they're filled with protein. And what protein is the importance of protein is that it builds our muscles and it keeps our bodies strong and healthy. It keeps our hair healthy, it keeps our skin healthy, and our muscles. So all of our muscle tissues are built on building blocks of proteins and the things that are in proteins like amino acids and all kinds of vitamins and minerals. So, I wanted to go over with you just a little bit about animal protein staples. So, first of all, we've got meat that comes from land animals like cows, chickens, and we have meat that comes from fish and birds, fish, seafood, poultry. Poultry is a word that we use for birds that we eat. So, chickens, ducks, things like that. Uh, Animal staples tend to be a little more expensive than plant-based staples, and they make up less of a population's diet, but they're still very important. And really, geography dictates what the region's main meat staples are. So, what we're going to go over in the next slide is some areas of the world where we eat more beef than we eat seafood and why. And you'll see really easily why in some areas of the world people eat more beef and some areas they eat more seafood. Um, some statistics that I wanted to share with you guys because you can really start to get an idea of how big the world is, how many people are on the planet, how much food is necessary to feed everyone, and what these big industries are all about. So, in 2023, worldwide, the meat industry was a $900 billion industry. So lots of money in protein staples. And worldwide, humans eat about 350 million tons of meat per year. So these are just phenomenally big numbers. For the population of the world, we have about 8 billion people on the planet and we eat 350 million tons of meat. That's a lot of meat. The US population, you can see here, is a little less than that at about 300, a little more than 330 million. So compare 330 million to 8 billion. That's how many people we have here in the United States. So that's to give you a little bit of an idea because I'm going to go over a little bit about how much meat is eaten in the world. So, first, we're in this lesson we're going to be going over beef, chicken, seafood, and fish and pork. So let's look up here in the red section about beef. So in the US, each person in the US averages about 57 pounds of beef per year. So across the board between adults and kids, on average, we eat about 57 pounds of beef per year. Now, that sounds like a lot, right? And it is a lot. But think about this in Argentina, and if you remember, go back to our other lessons, Little bit of geography. Argentina's in South America, and Argentina eats more beef than anyone in the whole world at about 140 pounds per person. So in America, we eat 57 pounds per person, about. This changes obviously from year to year. In Argentina, they eat 140 pounds per year. So that's more than double. So you can see South America is our big meat eaters. Um, this is so interesting, kids. You will totally understand this. From one cow, you can get 1,000 hamburgers from one cow. So just think about that. One cow can produce almost 1,000 quarter-pound burgers. So when you head to McDonald's or you're making burgers at home, remember that one cow equals 1,000 burgers. And we eat so many burgers in the United States and all over the world, but really here in the United States a lot. So that's just a little, some fun facts about beef. Chicken, in the US, we eat about 8 billion chickens per year. So imagine how many farms that farm chicken we need to have here in the United States to make eight to raise 8 billion chickens, right? That's a lot of chickens per year. So that's a really, really big industry. And this ties into our lesson on chickens, on backyard chickens, and just chickens in general. Our eggs come from chickens. We went over how the chickens are raised in warehouses or pasture raised. And just imagine these operations, these huge industrial farms that are raising these 8 billion chickens per year. And that's just in the United States. So that means that in the United States, about 22 million chickens are eaten every day. Okay, let's think about that. Every single day in the United States, 22 million chickens are eaten. So there are more chickens in the world than there are people. A lot more chickens in the world than people. So imagine that. It's just kind of fun to think about. For seafood, now seafood consists of fish with gills and flippers and things like that. And seafood also consists of other animals that live in the sea that aren't fish, like clams and mussels and shrimp, shellfish, these kinds of things also. So when I say seafood, I mean all of it. Um, we eat about 19 pounds of seafood per year in the United States. So compare that to 57 pounds of beef per year. We eat about 19 pounds of seafood, so less. And the reason for that, I'm going to slide over here to this. The reason for that is we have all this land mass here in the United States and less coastline. In some other areas of the world, like Japan, over here on the right hand side, they eat a lot less beef because they have less land where they can raise cattle and a lot more fish. So we have 13 pounds per year of beef to 100 plus 101 pounds of fish per year. So this is just to give you kind of an idea of who eats what, where, and why. So back to this seafood. Yeah, the top three types of seafood that are consumed here in the United States are shrimp, shrimp cocktail, fried shrimp, coconut shrimp, all the different kinds of shrimp that you've eaten, salmon, and canned tuna. So those are the three most popular types of fish here in the United States. And another interesting fact about fish in the United States is 90% of our seafood here in the United States is imported. It's imported from other countries because we just don't have as much coastline as some other countries. And so we import a lot of the fish that we eat here. Pork, the pink box down here on the right hand side here. Pork comes from pigs, and we eat about 51 pounds of pork per year. So let's go over that. Pork, 51 pounds. Seafood, 19 pounds. Chickens, about 22 million chickens a day, and beef, about 57 pounds per person. So you can see we eat almost as much pork as we eat beef, and we eat a lot more beef and pork than we eat seafood. That's here in the United States. Um, Pork is mostly consumed as bacon, ham, and sausage. So for your breakfast sausage, your bacon, your ham sandwiches, your Christmas ham, all of these types of things are pork. Um, The US is home to about 72 million hogs and pigs who are raised for the food industry. So 72 million pigs in the United States are raised specifically for the food industry. That's kind of comparable to the chickens, although there's so many more chickens, right? We have 72 million pigs raised yearly here, and we have about 8 billion chickens. So you can see the difference there. There's, almost eight times more chicken that we raise here in the United States. So these are just your animal protein staples. This is a kind of a subset of what we went over about your plant staples worldwide. And we went into more detail about that because plant staples account for the large majority of most people's diet. And these protein staples are next in that equation. So we have a lot of animal protein staples. We've got our beef, we've got our chicken, we've got our seafood, we've got our pork. They're a little more expensive. The industries around these staples are huge, as you can see by these numbers. Just so big. So this is something I definitely want you guys to know when we're learning all about food, where it comes from, why we eat what we eat, and to know where real food comes from and what is food and what isn't food. So I wanted to get back to this real quick. We'll go over this. Here in the United States, we eat about 84 pounds per person. This is kind of a round number. Compared to 48 pounds of fish. Okay, so we have a lot more beef in the United States than we have fish because we have less coastline, right? That makes sense. The same thing goes for South America. A lot more beef than fish, but there's a lot of fish eaten in all over the world. Again, here in, say, Portugal, this is the country right on the west coast of Europe. They eat a ton of fish. And the reason why is because it's a fishing country. Half of their country is bordered by the ocean. And so it makes sense that they would eat a lot of fish. Also, here in Africa, they eat very little beef. They don't have the large beef operations that we have in the United States and Africa, so they tend to eat a little bit more fish. Now, you'll notice in Africa, they eat less protein staples altogether. And in Africa, they eat more beans, more peas, more potatoes, more of your plant staples in Africa. Um, Over here in Japan, Japan is an island country, so they eat a ton of fish. Most of their diet and most of their protein staples are fish instead of beef. They just don't have the land mass to raise a lot of cattle, but they do have a lot of coastline and a big fishing industry. So there's a lot going on all over the world, and I just want you to start to get an idea of how big your world is and what kind of foods are eaten all over the world, what kind of plant staples, and also these protein staples. So I want you to know all about your plant staples. I want you to know all about your protein staples. And next, we're going to get into your dairy staples. These are products that come from animals like eggs and yogurt and things like that, butter. We'll get into that. So meet me on over there, and I'll see you there.